Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Gamar Jova to everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. I'll start my slides and begin by telling a little bit more about me, and then, of course, some more interesting things about the course. I hope you can see my screen. Yes. So about me, as Nikolai said, I'm a visual designer in general. I started my interest in visual design way back when I was in high school. I started doing logo designs and also my first web pages back then. And I really found my passion when working with visuals and design and creating all kinds of interesting projects for both online and offline. I started my first my first job as a web and graphic designer in a company that is still existing today, and we worked on really exciting projects which were browser-based online games, which is something back then was really like the cutting edge of web. And I learned really a lot about the technology. I did both design and front-end programming like HTML and CSS. And for the 7 or 8 years that I was in the company, I started hiring more designers because I was the only single designer in the company. And the company grew from a few people to about 150 people in those 7 years, which was really which meant a lot of experience for me and a lot of unknown issues that I had to tackle and learn along the way. And after I spent those years in Access Software, the company we created browser-based games. Then I decided to start my own agency, my own design studio, which is called Hype. Right now, we're doing websites that are focused in the corporate and the business field. I do a lot of UX and UI design for other types of projects, such as online platforms or mobile apps. So during those 15 years, I've created almost any kind of digital product you can think of, really. And I have a lot of experience in leading teams and coaching young designers. So this was kind of a natural for me to transition also into training in design because for the past 5 years, I did a lot of training here in Sofia, in the biggest institutions that provide such courses in UX and in UI design. And today I have the pleasure to be here with you today and present you the course. So enough about me. If you want to learn more or interested, you can ask some questions here, or you can check out my personal website. You can see some of the projects that I did there, and you can find out more about me. So regarding the training, it's called UX and UI Design Jumpstart. So it's designed basically to give you the foundations of both of UX and UI. Design, which is user experience design and user interface design. This course is really more on the creative side compared to other courses in the program, which are based mostly on technology in general. It would be really interesting to see if there are a lot of creative people that are interested in the course specifically. You can see the start and the end date in the beginning or in the middle of January and at the end of March. Next year, those are 12 weeks, a total of 48 hours. and it's every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Georgia time, which hopefully will be a convenient time for everyone to join even after work. A little bit more details about the course, what we will learn in the course. So UX and UI design is really encompasses a lot of activities, a lot of things that you can do. And if you're new to the field, perhaps you're confused. So this is pretty normal, but one of the goals of the course is to basically give you the full spectrum and show you the whole all kinds of fields that you can specialize in, because it's not only design, but there are more analytical things in UX, some work on the strategy when starting a project, user testing your ideas, and thinking about all kinds of things before getting to the actual design process. Whereas the UI design, the user interface design, is exactly the visual part, like creating a good and balanced user interface. And the course will try to explain and give you some light on the whole process that usually you went through when designing a digital product. I'll tell you a lot of secrets, so to say, or tips that you can only learn in the industry and in real life experiences. And also we'll focus both on desktop-based and mobile-based principles, so that basically you can design for every screen. There's even lectures talking about designing interface for wearables, such as smartwatches or other types of devices. So it's really interesting, and there's a wide scope of topics that are covered in the course. Of course, we'll start, as I mentioned, from strategy and research. This is something that doesn't concern design that much, but more focuses on the needs and of the business and the needs of the user that will be using your product. And we'll also do some design research. Then after we know we have a strategy and we did some research, we'll start by creating some prototypes, which again won't jump into the visual part just yet, but we'll use them for rough testing and verifying our ideas. And then, of course, at the end, we'll create a complete design for a digital product that could be a mobile app or a desktop app. And also another topic of the course will be how to present your design work, because this is a big struggle for all designers that I know, myself including. It's really tricky to present your work so that you can showcase the best sides of it. So I'll tell you some tricks about this as well. And overall, the idea is to give you all the skills and all the starting points, so to say, to be a well-rounded UX and UI designer. Who is this course or this topic suitable for? I mentioned that this is more on the creative side, the whole course. So it's really a really good first step for all kinds of creatives that are looking to join the IT industry in general. Right now, I'm sure that if you did some search, you'll see that there's a lot of demand for creative roles, designer roles in tech, other than the technical jobs, of course. So I'm sure if you decide to focus on this field, you have a lot of opportunities in the future. So you could be either junior or beginner designer. You can do any kind of graphic design. If it's also print design or any kind of traditional graphic design is also good as your background. You can also be an illustrator that you're looking to gain new knowledge and try to explore the UX and the UI fields. You can be any kind of in any kind of visual arts programs as a student or a graduate of such programs. Usually those are the types of backgrounds that are most common for these types of courses, but this is not a limitation. There's not a limitation for anyone that would like to join. In my courses, there were people from all sorts of backgrounds, like the finance background, law students, people that were in the marketing fields as well and want to try a little bit of more on the creative side. So basically no kinds of limitations here. Those are just some of the most common types of backgrounds that people have who are looking to join the course. So yeah, you don't need any previous UX or UI experience. The goal of the course is to give you the foundation, so you don't need to worry if you don't know or think about it, but are interested, and if you did some research and you think this might be a good specialization for you, then by all means apply. Now we're going to the moment where we are almost done with the course, and there's an exam or how to finish the course. So what would be required for you to successfully finish this training? You should learn the steps to create a product from scratch. So creating a website or a mobile app from the beginning. There are steps and a process that we will go through in the course, and I'll guide you through each of these steps. And then at the end, you have to present a project that will be following most of those steps. So understanding of the whole process and a deliverable on each step from the process. So from the beginning, you do, as I mentioned, some strategies, some research. So there will be, those activities will be documented. So you need to present those. Then we'll create a prototype, a wireframe prototype of a product, which we'll also present. And then we'll create a final design. So these are all examples of deliverables in the course that at the end will form like your course project that you will be presenting. Yeah, as I mentioned, we'll create a prototype and then we will test it with some real people. This is really a really fun activity and an interesting one to do, to basically test what you created, show it to some real people and see if they can get the idea of what you created and if they can really use it. Yeah, demonstrate the ability to present your concept and the whole design. As I mentioned, presenting your designs is really an important thing. So throughout the course, you will have some days for presentations, some sessions where you will present your projects in front of the whole group. And it's really, I think, based on the feedback that I get so far in my courses, this is one of the best experiences and the most valuable experiences that you get in such training. So yeah, you can look forward to that. And how you can apply all the knowledge in the real practice. So first of all, as I said, we will cover the basics, so you'll be able to navigate in all kinds of design work, in all kinds of digital products. So if it's either a web platform or a mobile app and you're part of it or you're working on it, you know which parts of the process you need to cover or you need to work on. So this will be really a good starting point for any kind of work that you do after that. You will master both the skills and the tools. So we will use a software called Figma, which is really the cutting edge of software for interface design. So you will be able to master the tool and also the skills that you need to work on UX and UI projects. you get a complete understanding of the methodologies. So all the methods, all the tools that you can use to achieve a usable product and a good looking product. You will learn how you can empathize with your users and create user-centered design. So we will put the user, basically the people who are using our product, we'll put them at the center of everything that we do, and we'll try to validate every decision that we make in our projects. We'll try to make sure that it answers a certain need, or it makes sense to our users, and not just create, you know, any kinds of designs that it's just that we like them. It's not important that we think it's good and we like what we do, but actually the most important thing is that the people that are going to be using our product, they feel like they understand it and it makes sense to them. So we'll practice that as well. And of course, I'll tell you a lot of actionable steps and things that you can do in each part of the process that will basically help you to achieve the result. What kinds of career development are there for you? As I mentioned, UX and UI design are really trendy right now and have been for the last couple of years. These are really, there's a lot of demand and they are really good paid positions out there if you haven't done the research so far. So if you manage those skills, if you manage to learn those skills and start to focus in this field, you will be really sought after by employers. So I can guarantee that there will be a lot of opportunities for you, both in, I'm sure, in Georgia and also worldwide, because as we now are all in remote mode, there are a lot of remote positions for UI or UX designers. So yeah, definitely a lot of opportunities that you can look forward to. There are basically, for a designer, there are two main career paths. The first one is either a remote or an in-house UX or UI designer. That could be in a studio or an agency that works on digital products, or it could be a product company that create their own product. It could be a startup as well. So basically, you can find your place in a wide range of IT companies, so to say. Or you can also be a freelancer as well. You can also do a lot of freelance work, because especially in the remote position that the whole world is right now, you can also practice as a freelancer. So that's also a big opportunity. A little bit about the class agenda and the topics that we'll be covering. So this will give you a better idea of what's included in the training. So we divide the course into two parts because there's two different topics that we need to cover. The first one is UX, or user experience. So we'll start with the kickoff, telling you more about the whole field. Then we'll do 2 strategy sessions, which we will focus on the user needs, as I mentioned before, and the business goals. We'll focus on those. And then on the second strategy session, we'll focus on personas and user stories. Those are activities and deliverables that we will do in order to try to get in the shoes of our users. Then we'll tackle the scope, basically the scope of the project. We'll do some brainstorming. We'll do some competitor research and things like that, so we can find our exact scope, so we don't do everything. Then we will think about the structure. We'll dig into information architecture, how we should basically arrange the content in order to make sense in a digital product or an application. We'll also talk about interaction design, or how we design interactions in a digital product. And then we'll start to create and make things. We'll in the skeleton section, in the skeleton training, we'll discuss how we create prototypes, both low fidelity prototypes such as paper sketches or wireframes, and also discuss high fidelity prototypes, which are the types of prototypes that we will create at the end of the course. Those are the prototypes with the final visual design that will basically resemble how a mobile app or a web-based app will look when finished, but it will be just a prototype that you can test. It won't need any coding. Then we'll do some user testing with those prototypes. So we'll present those products and prototypes to real people, and we can do testing. That's also done remotely, so no need to worry. We can adapt to the current situation. We'll also learn some basic information about the different mapping methods in UX, like empathy mapping, journey map, and so on. We'll learn about the heuristic evaluation, or the 10 heuristics in UX, or the 10 commandments in UX. Those are really interesting ones. And then we'll do a final presentation of the whole UX part. And then we'll continue with the second part of the course, which is the user interface design and the visual part. Here it gets much more interesting in terms of visual design, because we'll cover the fundamentals in design. And some essentials that's like a common ground for all designers and creatives that are in the course, so we can have a common ground and understanding of the fundamentals. And then we'll focus on a single section on web-based design. We'll look at some common layouts, some elements, how the web works in terms of when designing a page. Then also on the next session, we'll talk about the mobile-based design, what it is to create a native mobile app or a responsive web app or a website. We'll again talk about some common layouts, common elements. We'll also talk about watches and wearables here. So it's really interesting topics. Then we'll talk about creating a layout using grids, using the white space, how to create a spacing as a sizing system. We will talk about the typography in UI, like choosing the right fonts, combining fonts. How should we use typography in a digital product so that it's readable and easy to understand. We'll talk about colors, how to create color schemes, using a color wheel, some common meanings of colors, and so on. There's a session about design systems, which is something that's really popular right now, and because it's really a useful library of design elements for digital products. So I'll tell you some foundations about the design systems. And then finally, at the end, some finishing touches, some tips and tricks for creating user interface design, also working with animations and how animations are used in the user interface in particular. And at the end, as I mentioned, how to present your design work. So those are all topics that we'll cover in the course, and I can guarantee that those are really interesting and useful materials out there. For each topic, there are a lot of external resources that I'll provide links to. So basically, when we have covered all the foundations here, then you have a lot of more resources to build your skills after the course. And I think that's all from the slides, and I'll leave some time for your questions now. I see some questions already here in the QA, so I'll start right from the top. So the first one, I do not anything to add in my CV. How should I apply? So if you don't have anything to add in your CV, it will be good to try to create some kind of a graphic design project. So you can design anything like a poster or a card or anything that has some graphic design into it, because after all, this is a course that's focused on the creative side. So there will be a huge focus on visual design. So you must decide if visual design is what you want to do before taking the course, and you can create something really quick as a portfolio, just a couple of posters or cards or covers or whatever you think you can do. I don't have any experience in this area, but the way you're talking about makes it really interesting. So how does you work? Do I need skills in drawing or is the UX or UI developer's job to write code? So definitely it's not your job to write code, and this course won't focus on code at all, so no coding here. It's all about the creative side. So you don't also need any drawing skills, actually. We'll use, as I said, digital tools, so you can build your designs there. So yeah, you can apply even though you don't have any of those skills. So you're welcome to apply. Can I show some examples? Well, it was a short presentation today, so unfortunately no examples there, but you can look some of the examples of my work on the websites that I specified in the first slide about me. So you can check out those links for some examples. Here there's a question about multiple courses and get a certificate on the chosen courses. So I will leave this answer to someone from the team to answer. Which course to start with? Yeah, those are all. I think you can answer those questions. So I'll skip this one. There's a good question here about the UX and UI design field. Is it too saturated? The barrier is too low. There are a lot of people with different backgrounds. So what are my thoughts? Well, I can tell you that when I started doing design, there wasn't UX and UI fields at all. This was basically it's from the past couple of years that are really popular, from the past 5 or 10 years maybe. So I think there's room for there's always room for good professionals and really good people in the field, especially because the barrier might be low right now. If you're good at what you do, you easily stand out from most of the people out there. So I think it depends mostly on you as a person and your personal motivation. So there's a lot of work to be done, and in the future there will be too. So I think it's really there's a lot of future in the field, definitely. I am not worried from that it's really popular. Last two questions, really quick. Or last one. What will be exam? I think I covered that in the slides. It will be a course project that we'll do throughout the course. So yeah, I think that's all on my end. Let me know if we need to.
George?
Yeah.
I have questions from Facebook.
Oh, sure. Let's cover those.
Can you share for our audience which is more important, UI or UX?
I would say that both are equally important, because if you do just the UX part, you think about the product, you research it, you create like a prototype, but it's not looking good in terms of visual design, in terms of aesthetics. You know that like all the products today, people are used to have really good looking and good working products. So if you do only one of these two, this won't be enough. So you definitely need to cover both of the fields in a product. This doesn't mean that you have to do all the work by yourself. Of course, most of the things are done in teams, so you have partial responsibilities and things that you should take care of. But yeah, in my opinion, both are really important, and one cannot go without the other. I hope this answers the questions.
Okay, thank you. And there is several different job roles connected to UX UI. Can you share some of roadmaps how students can come to UX?
Yeah.
And the next question is, what is the next?
What is next after that? Okay, so first of all, if you're talking about UX, there are a lot of UX positions right now, but I can try to generalize them in two segments. The first one is the mostly the analytical or the strategy part. This doesn't concern anything about interface or visual design, but instead focuses more on talking with real people, discussing products, making user tests, researching other products, researching functionalities. So this is really a lot more on the analytical, on the strategy part of UX. Then there's also the design, the UX design part, where you can create prototypes, you can create wireframes, you can test those with people. So again, this is stepping a little bit into designing, but again, it's more focused on the UX and it's not that concerned with the visual part. So you can become like a UX strategist, UX researcher. You can become also a UX designer. So these are the main fields of UX. And if you look into the career development, there each year there are new positions. For example, UX writer, which is a person who is responsible for just writing and making sure that the content on the product is okay, and all kinds of niche roles. But in my experience, you have to be more like a generalist first to know all the fields and then focus into one. And about UI design, then you can start as a junior designer. You can continue to grow and be part of a bigger design team. You can then become a manager or a leader of some designers, or you can, be a leader of a whole design, of several design teams in an organization. But this will take you, some years to build the skills. So definitely you have to be prepared to spend a lot of years in this field. It won't happen in just 1 or 2 years, as I'm sure most of you expect that this is really a quick start. But I think it doesn't matter if it's a design field or technical field. You have to be ready to dedicate a lot of years into it. I hope this answers the question. Sorry, why you're muted?
What is the next, when you become UX UI, what you can do then with your career, with profession?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in the slides. So you can either practice as a freelancer and work on all kinds of digital products, for example, web platforms, websites, or mobile applications. So you can work on creating all kinds of digital products. You can do this as a freelancer, or you can do this in a company. So there are a lot of technology companies. I don't need to tell you how much companies are out there, and they're almost all of them, if they're product companies, they have a design department. So you can work in a product company, or you can work in a design studio or an agency, which are also working on websites or mobile apps. So I would say plenty of opportunities and companies to work for.
Become a good junior designer?
How much time? Well, depends on your background. So if you haven't done any design, at all so far, I would say at least 1 or 2 years as a junior designer. And in those 1 or 2 years, you need to practice a lot, like not just for a couple of hours during the week, but a lot of work. You need to put in a lot of work for a year or two, and this will give you a good foundation, and then you can build your career from there. As I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. So in order to get to my level, you need to do it at least, 10 years if you're really better than me. So I hope this gives you a better idea.
And you tell that you spent 15 years. Can you share how much hours per week you read about UX?
Well, depends on the work, but I try to read at least a couple of hours for every week. So if those are articles or books or videos, so I try to always be on the cutting edge of what's happening in the industry, since things are changing really fast, as we all know, not in UX and UI, but in the technology sector in general. So I always try to keep up to date. So I spend at least a couple of hours per week on just, you know, learning and researching what's new.
Will be this course beneficial for web developers, people who create websites or applications?
I would say partially, yes, especially if you're focused on front-end development. So if you're doing HTML, CSS, or JavaScript for front-end, this will give you a really good idea and good foundation, and it will help you to work better with designers. But if you're more into the backend development, I don't think this will be that much of interest to you unless you really you have a interest for the creative part. So it depends on the type of developer you are. I know backend developers that were really interested in this course, but most of the developers were focused on front end. So yeah, front end, if you're focused on that, I think this course will be useful to you.
Last question. You mentioned that you use Figma
Yes.
product. What other programs you use?
Well, to be honest, I use, as a designer in general, before I used the whole Adobe suite, like Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. But right now, also Adobe XD. This is the latest product from Adobe that focuses on UX and UI design. But right now, with the products, I think the best single product for UI design is Figma. This is why we'll use it in the course. But since the tools for UI are really similar, all the knowledge and the principles that we learn in Figma can be directly applied into other programs such as XD or Sketch. So yeah, I think.
Thank you.
Skills.